Hello again. So you find me outside of the cement works near Dunbar, a very scenic location, and as I'm filming this it's early November and autumn is sliding into winter, unfortunately, and very soon the roads of the UK and Northumberland, they'll be covered in salt and grit and snot and slime, and I won't be taking the Moto Guzzi out on those kind of roads. I'll be laying it up over the winter period. I mean, you just don't do that to an Italian beauty, do you? I mean, you wouldn't take Sophia Loren to the sit-down Greggs for a mince pasty. I mean, come on, you wouldn't, would you? Okay, before we get on with the end of year update for the Moto Guzzi V7 Stornello, just to say that it isn't a review of the motorcycle. Rather, it is purely subjective and it's all about my experience with the bike over the last 6 months and around 2,000 miles. So if you are looking for a motorcycle review video, either switch off now or go and watch one of my earlier videos. Right, on to the end of year update for the Stornello. Bit tricky this. So what are the positives then about the Moto Guzzi V7 Mark II Stornello? Well, just have a look at it. I mean, it's just absolutely perfect. And in terms of riding and everything else, it has exceeded my expectations completely. It is just totally wonderful in every single respect. So yeah, it's perfect. Oh look, there's my helmet. Been looking for that. I don't know. Okay, so the report card then. What are the negatives? Well, there's no negatives actually. I mean, you're asking me if there's any negatives about the Moto Guzzi V7 Stornello. I mean, come on. Actually, there is one negative, and that's entirely down to me. Or rather, it's down to the CRF 300. So somehow, mysteriously, the CRF 300 managed to fall onto the Moto Guzzi overnight in the garage, and it scratched the left-hand side of the tank. And, you know, when I think about the last 3 or 4 owners of the bike have kept it pristine and looked after it, and what did I do and what happened to it? You know, within 2 months of me owning it, got a scratch on the petrol tank. Honestly, I could have wept. That's about the only negative, and it's nothing to do with the bike at all, because obviously the bike is perfect. It's a Moto Guzzi and it's the finest motorcycle mark in the world. Okay, before you ask, no I didn't, so I was sensible for once. So, is there anything I would like to change on it? Absolutely nothing, although it's likely I'll probably be getting some new tyres next year. But no, there's nothing to improve on it. You know, it's perfect. I've got a centre stand on it, aftermarket centre stand on it. I've got the rack, I've got my clothes peg, got everything that I need. So absolutely nothing I'm going to change on it. Okay, so in terms of my plans for the bike, well again, I've adapted them slightly, and you'll see this in the CRF 300 video as well. I was potentially contemplating doing some longer trips on it, you know, taking it over to Europe. I mean, wouldn't it be great to go over to Mandello del Lario and a V7 Mark II Stornello? Just be great. But again, I've reluctantly come to the conclusion that for me it's probably just not comfortable enough or practical enough, and in bad weather I think it'd be quite grim, you know, to be stuck on top of the Moto Guzzi. So yeah, my plans have changed, so all I'm going to do on it is just potter around these lovely lanes here in Northumberland and maybe a little bit further afield. But yeah, those are my plans, just to enjoy it for as long as it lasts. Okay, how likely is it that I will swap it for something else? You what? You've got to be absolutely kidding. Swap it for something else? You must be mad. How dare anybody, how dare I ask myself that question? No, so of course I'm not going to swap it. What I'd really like to do is, like, you know, get a series of Moto Guzzi V7 Mark IIs in various different colours, you know, for different days of the week. You know, because I've always felt that a red and white bike is a good Friday bike, whereas a nice yellow bike is a good Tuesday bike, and a green bike is good for Thursdays. But anyway, that's just me. So am I going to swap it? Absolutely not. Now that is the way to do it. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so just going back to the subject of whether I would ever swap the Moto Guzzi Stornello for anything, and given that it's EICMA week at the moment, so it's the first week of November, and obviously there's lots of shiny new bikes that have just been announced. So in terms of the retro bikes, the modern retros that have been announced, you know, there's been quite a few. And I do wonder whether it's a genre that's running out of steam. But anyway, of the ones that have been announced, the ones that have caught my eye, so there's the two Royal Enfields, there's the Royal Enfield 650 Bear Scrambler thing. And you know what, it's not very imaginative, is it? You know, it just sort of seems totally generic, and from a distance it sort of looks like any other manufacturer's bike. Nice colours though, and I'm sure it'll be lovely, but yeah, it's not very imaginative, is it? And as for that Royal Enfield Classic 650, is it just me or is it absolutely hideous? The colours are nice, but I don't know, I just think it looks pretty horrible, to be honest. What else is there? So there's that Honda GB350. I think that looks a lot nicer, to be honest. It's not really for me, but I think it looks nicer because it's almost more of a 70s 80s retro, you know, as opposed to some faux 1950s thing that none of us have ever actually ridden. So I quite like the look of it, but yeah, it's not something I'm personally interested in. There's also the Moto Guzzi V7 Sport, you know, which is just basically an update of the 850 Stone. Again, not really doing it for me, although I would say the green on the petrol tank and the side panels is absolutely glorious. So yeah, there's no modern retros that have been announced at EICMA this year that really interest me, to be honest. So I'll be keeping the Stornello, because let's face it, it's totally irreplaceable, gorgeous and lovely. I told you it wasn't going to be objective, purely subjective. Stop press. I do, however, quite like this. This is the Marini 3.5 Sport, and it's even got like a little tiny V-twin engine. How good is that? And personally, for me, I think this is the way that manufacturers should be producing modernised, updated versions of their previous bikes. You know, yes, there's a nod to the past, but it's also unmistakably modern. I just think it looks great. Just brilliant. I'd have one like a shot. Maybe. So that probably answers the next question, you know, what's the keeper rating? Well, the keeper rating is 100%. Oh, 101%. Are you allowed to have 101? No, absolutely 100% keeper rating. I can't think of anything that I'd want to swap it for. It's, you know, it's pure perfection for me. It's the personification of Moto Guzzi's, you know, past, present and future. Absolute delight to ride. And yes, it's a total emotional bike to ride and to own. As I've said before, I love looking at it, I love riding it, I love the sound, I love the smell, I just love everything about it. And don't get me wrong, I am not immune to the fact that it's rather idiosyncratic and a bit peculiar in a few places. So keeper rating, yeah, 101%. It's got to blow up before I'll think about swapping it, or, you know, something has got to happen to me, God forbid. But no, keeper rating 101%. Okay, so that's it for the report card. So I think overall I would give it, the Moto Guzzi this year, in terms of the overall report, definitely meets, exceeds, wildly goes over the top in terms of my own expectations. It's an absolute delight. Okay, well, that's it for the Stornello end of year review 2024. So time just to finish up, and after all that hard work, have a biscuit or two. So these are Border Dark Chocolate Ginger Biscuits, which are darkly delicious, fiery biscuits for an intense taste experience. So thanks to Dave Bethel for recommending these biscuits, so I'm looking forward to these very much. So yes, the end of year review for the Stornello. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you realise most of it, if not all of it, is rather tongue-in-cheek. And, you know, just to say, the Stornello has been a totally emotional buy, and it's been a really brilliant emotional experience owning and riding it this year. So we've got 10,000 miles in total, and it's just been fabulous, and I'm really looking forward to next year. So I'm going to have a biscuit, and then I'll just leave you with a few nice shots, and I will see you later. Oh, these are brilliant. Cheers, Dave. So did you really think I was going to throw a load of soggy old leaves over the Moto Guzzi Stornello? I mean, come on.